Welcome back. We are here with another edition of Ask GCN Anything.
Yes, and this week we are focusing on performance questions. We've got weight related, endurance related, and sprint related. We've also got a question on coffee stops.
We have. That was our favourite question this week, wasn't it? The coffee stop one. We've gone really in depth with that one. We've also, as a reminder, got a 3-month free subscription on offer for the best question on training each week. For that one, you need to use the hashtag Ask GCN Training on social media. For all general questions, you can leave them in the comment section down below or using the hashtag talkback on social media.
Yeah, and right, I reckon we should get started.
Yeah, let's get cracking.
So first question is from Stan Jakobsen, and he says, "Hey GCN, you always hear that riders are trying to lose weight, but can you actually lose some of your power when losing body weight, or should you just be as light as possible, mostly thinking about fat?" Well, the quick answer is yes, but what you've got to be careful of is if you find your power dropping very rapidly, you'll actually be losing lean body mass, lean muscle mass. And well, that's not a good thing.
No, you want to focus on just losing the fat really, which has got to be a gradual process. So as we all know, power to weight is really crucial when it comes to all cycling performance. The problem with some diets is that you can lose weight very quickly, and as James points out, you might then be losing muscle, which, as I can tell you personally, is very hard to gain. So you want to make sure that you've got maintenance of the power at various durations, which is really easy to do if you've got a power meter. From your sprint power, which is less than 20 seconds, let's say, right through to your FTP and endurance of an hour and above. Very easy to do, as I said, with a power meter. As ever with losing weight, you want to do it very gradually. Slowly but surely is always the key, because if it drops like a stone, as James points out, you are likely losing body mass and lean muscle mass, which is a bad thing. So just take it steady, don't weigh yourself every single day, and just make sure the weight's going in the right direction ever so gradually, and you should find that your power to weight increases, and therefore your performance increases as well. Next up is our coffee question. It comes in from Arno Mesberg. Coffee breaks. When to take one? Only before or after a training ride, or is it in the middle okay too?
Well, I personally like to put it in the middle of my ride. I like to put a coffee stop in as my furthest point, and that gives me a goal. And once I get there, I get a prize of big cake and a coffee, and then I have to ride back, so then I make sure I get the ride in. What about you?
James likes a reward, don't you?
I do like a reward.
Gets a banana when he does a good Ask GCN thing at the end. I disagree with you. I just didn't like doing coffee stops when I was training properly. I love coffee stops, and I would do them on recovery rides, let's say on a Monday or Friday or whatever it might be when I was racing full time. But when I was training, I wanted to get my training done first and foremost, but secondly, I also hated the feeling of coming out of the coffee shop because my legs were dead, I was starting to get cold, etc. So if I ever did do one, it would be on a day with good weather, and I'd also make sure it was towards the end of my ride, so all I needed to do was 10 to 15 minutes to get home, just cooling down basically.
Yeah.
But there are loads of people that do them in the middle of the ride.
There are, yeah.
Amongst them, Vicente Reigns, a former World Tour rider himself that lives over in Mallorca, and he took us through how to coffee stop like a pro. You wouldn't believe how many different types of coffee there are over in Spain, but this is a video we did a long time ago, back in 2014. I learnt a lot, and well, if you watch it, James, you might do too.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking that's probably why you're World Tour and I wasn't.
As James pointed out, I was very young there, just 4 years ago.
Well, here you have a normal espresso, so it's a little bit stronger, just for start the ride. Then here we have a Spanish cortado, so we're calling cortado because they have an espresso with a little bit of milk. Actually, in locals we call cortado this kind of coffee. Then we have a normal café con leche, and normally in Spain we used to have the café con leche a little bit stronger. Okay. So extra shot inside.
Fantastic.
Next up, we have the lucky winner of 3 months free subscription to Zwift. That person this week is Axel Lavrason. His question is, winter is on its way, so I'm creating my own winter training program, but are there some key sessions, should I say, for keeping my fitness level on point during the base phase?
Wow, Axel, it's fantastic that you're already thinking about your winter training. So yeah, you're incredibly organised.
Very.
Yeah, I hope you've been able to get some time off the bike, because it's really good mentally and physically to come into the new season or the new winter afresh and rejuvenated, so you're motivated and enthusiastic about your winter training.
Well, that winter break after the season's finished is as much mental, or even more mental, than it is physical, isn't it? You want to be fresh, you want to draw a line under the previous season and get yourself ready for the new one. And so as such, it's a good time to take 3 weeks off the bike so that you feel very motivated when you start up again. When we talk about base miles, we still often think about just long, steady rides, back to back, all the way through the winter. There's definitely still a place for doing long rides in your base phase. In fact, they're very important indeed. But the common theory amongst many coaches now is that it's also a very good idea to keep intensity in during the winter period as well. What you want to think about here, though, is not challenging yourself quite so much when it comes to the duration of those intensive intervals. So to give you an example, if you were during the summer doing 3-minute efforts at 300 watts on an interval session, it's fine to do 300 watt efforts during the winter, but rather than doing 3 minutes, you might want to keep it down to 1 so that you're not going deep into the red.
Yes, and by performing these repeated high intensity efforts, you're working on your aerobic capacity, and well, that's really good for your base level fitness or your base training during the winter.
We've got a couple of sessions for you coming up now. The first one is one that you want to do at the start of a normal long endurance ride. So once you've warmed up for, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes, what you want to do is 5 lots of 1 minute where you go hard. Now that doesn't sound very specific, and actually we should tell you we don't think you should use a power meter for this particular effort over the base training period. But by hard, I mean fairly exhausted by the end of each minute, but not absolutely in a box. You want to have something, of course, for the next interval. After you finish doing those 5 by 1 minutes with 4 minutes of recovery between each one, carry on with your normal endurance ride of however long that might be. Now what you will find is that if you record your power, if you're lucky enough to have a power meter, even though you're not looking at it when you're doing those intervals, over the course of the base training period, you should find that for exactly the same effort, you're producing more power.
Yeah, it's a good one, that. And the next one is, in your winter training, it's probably going to be rainy, drizzly, and pretty grim outside. So why not go inside, get on Zwift, and then they've got a really good session of 30 max efforts. Now that's really good because it really builds that high intensity. And then on the session, you also have the start of the sessions where you're loading the legs, so you're getting a little bit of fatigue, and then you perform 6 times 30-second max efforts with 30 seconds rest. And the 30 seconds rest keeps your heart rate high and also gives you a little bit of respite. So let us know how you get on with those.
That's a tough one, that. 30 seconds almost flat out and only 30 seconds to recover between each. But it is over very quickly, isn't it?
It is.
A total of 3 minutes of work, basically, there. With these sessions, you can incorporate them once each into your weekly training program. Of course, if you keep doing the same thing, you might well start to stagnate, at which point, if you do stagnate, try to increase the number of intervals that you're doing. But do this over 8 or so weeks and then look at your training program. You start to incorporate some different ones.
Yeah, actually, when I went out to the Vuelta, spoke to the pros about their hardest training session. A lot of them said 30-second max efforts were their hardest.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So good luck.
Good luck. Our next question is our endurance-related one. It comes in from Steve DS. What's the best way to prepare for a multi-stage, multi-day event? I'm doing a 7-day event at the end of the year, and I'm concerned that I am focusing on volume, riding back-to-back days, etc. What's the best approach leading into the event?
Well, Steve, I think it sounds like you're almost there. Volume, in my mind, is key. You're doing a 7-day event, and you want to make sure you can do back-to-back days on the trot. So, yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. I'd actually feel quite comfortable.
Yeah, it's a little bit the same as the base training question we've just had, isn't it? It's still important to keep some intensity in whilst you're doing the volume. I know you're concerned about your recovery and the ability to do back-to-back days on the bike, but you might not necessarily need to be. I'll give my own personal example. Back when I was privileged to be racing full-time, which of course gave me a lot of time to train, I would only at the maximum do 3 days back-to-back really hard training, because at the end of that, rarely on a 4th day could I produce any decent power, so I generally took a rest. My weekly structure would normally be Monday easy, Friday easy, 3-day block, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2-day block at the weekend, and that generally served me pretty well. The thing is, once you get to a big event, whether that's a race or a 7-day multi-event like you're doing at the end of the year, once you've tapered down, once you've done all your training and you've got that mental focus too, without the day-to-day pressures and stresses that you normally get with work and family, etc., you will find that you recover a lot quicker in between each day. So if you feel at the moment that you're getting really tired on day 4, I wouldn't worry about that at all. It is important to do back-to-back days, 2 or 3 day blocks, but don't go out trying to do 7 days on the trot hard and then be worried that you're tired at the end of it. It's like the old example we gave years ago. If you're going for a marathon, you don't want to do a marathon the week before, just to test that you can do it, because that is the big event. So I think you're doing the right thing at the moment, but if you want more hints and tips on a multi-stage event, Cy made this video a couple of years
Firstly,
ago.
we think that as important as getting used to training and racing on back-to-back days is, you shouldn't let it get in the way of trying to be as fit as you possibly can be. It might sound counterintuitive, but actually training to be good at riding on successive days might not actually get you as fit and as fast as you otherwise would be. But the fitter you are, the less taxing your stage race or ride is going to be. So take for example this, which is the Passo Campolungo in Alta Badia. It's exactly the kind of climb that you'd find on an event like the Haute Route. And it is, as you can probably hear, a tough one. But if through training we manage to improve our FTP by 50 watts, it's going to be an awful lot easier and an awful lot less taxing than if we were simply better able to cope with soaking up hard work.
The next question is also, well, it's endurance related again, I think, isn't it? It comes in from Jamie Dix. Along with £3, we've entered the Red Bull Time-Lapse 2018 race, which is in essence a 25-hour 4-up relay crit. None of us have done it before and have a varied fitness and ability range. What kind of training can we do to prepare for an event like this? As an added complication is that we have, it's hard to train together because we live far apart. Any tips on tactics as well would be much appreciated.
Wow, that sounds like an awesome event. I personally haven't done one. Have you done a 24-hour event?
I've done the Red Bull 24-hour mountain bike event about 20 years ago with the all-conquering Rally mountain bike squad, and we didn't win. They'd won it for the previous 3 or 4 years on the trot, drafted me in as a first-year senior, and I thought I was going to win a grand prize money, and then we were beaten by Helly Hansen, who came with an ingenious new strategy, where as opposed to doing 2 hours each and having 6 hours off, they just did a lap each, had less time off, but it worked for them.
Oh.
It was clearly only the strategy, the beat, just not the strength.
Yeah, well, here's some better strategies, we hope. Anyway, once you're in the event, it sounds like a multiple time trials, really. So I think it'd be good to raise your FTP, so train for your FTP. We've also got videos on how to build your FTP up, because what you want to do is go in for a couple hours and just sit as basically as hard as you can, but without going into the red. The last thing you want to do on a 24-hour event is blow on the first, second or third leg. So make sure you ride within yourself. Also, if you're going into the event, I would try and find a group that is similar to your ability, or even maybe a bit faster, because that means you can share the workload and use riders that may be a bit stronger than you, and you can just sit on their wheels a little bit longer and pull all those tactics possible, so then you don't have to do as much work.
Yeah, different from the mountain bike one from that point of view, in that drafting will be a key. Although it's nice to sit with someone a little bit better than you, don't get drawn into going too hard on the first stint. I'd imagine that you're probably going to be doing like 4 lots of an hour and a half each, roughly. You said you've got varying levels of fitness, so it might be the stronger ones want to do 2 hours at a time, or just that the weaker ones don't do quite as much as the stronger riders do. Now, in terms of training for this, it's quite related to the previous question that we had in that you don't want to go out and try and replicate what you're going to be doing in that 24-hour period. That said, what you could do is try putting aside a couple of days where you can really concentrate on your training and do double days, which is what a lot of pros do, in fact. So you might want to go out and do an hour quite hard in the morning, and then in the afternoon or evening, after you've recovered a bit, go out and do an hour and a half to 2 hours fairly steady. Repeat this on back-to-back days, and that's really going to prepare you for the type of effort that's involved in the 24-hour Red Bull, 25 hours as it is. The other thing, of course, that's really important for this, on the day especially, is your nutrition. Now, you're going to be burning through a hell of a lot of carbs during this 25 hours because your metabolism's going to be revved up right from the very start. So it's really important that you make sure you know what works for you before you get to the day, something your stomach can cope with that's going to give you a lot of quickly absorbed carbohydrates. It might be gels, it might be bars, it might be cakes, whatever it is, just make sure that it's right for you and that you eat a hell of a lot on the day, because the last thing you want to be thinking about is perhaps putting weight on, because with that much riding in a 24-hour period, you're probably not going to do that, are you?
No, probably not.
Anyway, we wish you the very best of luck with it. Hopefully your tactics will see you through. Just think about how much each rider's doing and try to take advantage of anyone else. That's what we did, isn't it?
Yeah.
Drafting's cheating, but we loved it. If you want to know how not to hit the wall or bonk, we've got another pretty old video coming up for you now.
You don't look so young there, mate.
No, it's just the beard.
Yeah.
Shave this off, I look 23 again.
Number one, and arguably the most fundamentally important thing about cycling, especially for those very new to the sport, is that if you're considering going out on a ride of above 90 minutes, that you must consume some carbohydrates whilst on the move.
Yeah, that can be in the form of an energy drink, a jam sandwich, a cereal bar, or an energy gel. Anything, in fact, which allows the body to absorb some carbohydrates very quickly. That way you will never dip too far into your reserves of 300 grams of carbs, so you'll always have something left in the tank.
Right, now we're on to the quick fire round. But whenever Dan's involved, it's not so quick fire.
Yeah. In fact, the first few questions have taken so long, we've now put the quick fire round last, haven't we? Anyway, crack on with it.
Yeah. So the first question is from Reniot314, #talkback. Started cycling at the beginning of this year and recently completed my first century. Well, congratulations for that. Aside from starting racing, which he's already got planned, what would a good next cycling milestone be? Can you answer that one?
Well, you said you've already got racing plans, so I guess we can discount all of those sorts of goals. But there's plenty of events which can be really big goals for you moving forward. There's lots over here in Europe. We don't know exactly where you're from, but there's the Étape du Tour, which is always a big one with loads of participants. We obviously always go over to the Maratona, which is not only challenging but also stunningly beautiful, I have to say. And if you want to challenge yourself even more, you could do something like the Haute Route, which is, like our earlier question, a multi-stage event of between 4 and 7 days. There's quite a few of them around the world, so there might be one fairly near to you, or you might want to go abroad to actually do it. So lots of stuff to choose from, but it is really important to choose a long-term goal because it keeps you motivated, keeps you focused, and it's also something that's very nice to do.
Exactly.
Next up, how often do you need to go for a bike fit? That comes in from Gary Coronado.
Well, I would say whenever you feel like you've got a niggle, or even if you're changing to a different kind of bike, so if you're going from a road bike to a cyclocross bike, it's probably worth changing your position, maybe getting a bike fit. But once you've got one, I guess you don't really need to change it that too often.
No, I mean, I didn't really ever have a bike fit for my pro career until very near to the end. 2011, I was already 31. Got a fit from Ventoux, and they basically didn't change anything. So through trial and error, I'd managed to get myself obviously into quite a decent position. And if I can do it, I kind of feel like most other people should be able to too. Now, I think at the start, if you're just getting into cycling, you don't know much about it, it's probably a good idea to go and get a bike fit because they'll be able to tell you what's a good position for you. After that point though, I feel like you should be able to tell when things don't feel quite right. You might feel a bit more flexible so you can get lower at the front end, for example. But you should be able to do that yourself, I think, through trial and error because it can be quite costly. You don't want to be going back every 6 months just to change something by a couple of millimetres.
That's true.
Next up, it's one from Tom Morrissey. As a sprinter, I've trained for sprinting a lot more than climbs, but now I'm happy with my sprinting. Should I balance my training between sprinting and climbing?
I would say yes, completely. I would start balancing out for sure, but make sure you keep in those sprint efforts because you don't want you to totally lose your sprint. So make sure you're keeping that high intensity sprint, and that will help your fast twitch muscles.
Well, you don't want to lose any of your sprint,
No.
really, do you? Because you spent a long time trying to build your sprint up. So what you should find is that through a bit of maintenance, keeping 1 or 2 sessions in a week which are still focused on sprinting, you should be able to keep the power that you've built up whilst at the same time focusing on your climbing and longer term efforts around those sprinting sessions. You can increase your power to weight ratio there. So the idea is to keep what you've already got because that sounds like a strength whilst working on your weakness. Similar question but the other way round somewhere here. Bobby. What are the best sessions to improve my power for a 20-minute hill climb race? Thank you.
Well, this will be an FTP training question, do you not think? This is to increase your 60-minute power. And yeah, so then you can work on once you've got a really good base 60-minute, then increasing your 20-minute power will also help that.
Sweet spot efforts also really good, as are tempo efforts for increasing your overall FTP. So that's at kind of 88 to 93% of your FTP for 30 to 45 minutes at a time. That kind of nudges your FTP up, which is also slightly less painful than doing it dead on your FTP, 2x20s, etc. It's actually the next question, which was the opposite to the previous one, so I got myself a bit confused there. From Ondra, I'm good on both short and long climbs and time trials. You sound very good. But I'm a terrible sprinter, so there is a negative point here. What should I focus on most? Well, this really just depends on what your goals are. I mean, if all you're doing is long events with long climbs or time trials, there's really no need to focus on a sprint at all, is there? However, if you're doing any kind of sort of racing, inevitably, the better your sprint is, the better your results are going to be, because it's very hard to finish a race in a solo position at the front. So you're generally going to come in with a group, at which point having a decent amount of sprinting ability is going to help you get a result, isn't it? So it's kind of the opposite to the previous question. You want to maintain the power you've got for your time trials, short climbs and long climbs through a few sessions focused on them each week, but then the rest of the time work on your sprint and see if you can get that higher whilst keeping the rest of what you've got.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week's Ask GCN Anything. And if you want to get your questions in, then don't forget to use the hashtag talkback. And if you want your chance of winning 3 months free subscription from Zwift, then use the hashtag GCN Training.
Ask GCN,
GCN Training.
There we go. We'll have it on the screen right now. Now, in talking of sprints, of course, we've got a video dedicated to sprint sessions. You can click on that just down here.